Hey guys, and welcome to a brand new video here on HD Pocket. Today we're going to be going over 5 of the best decks that you can be using to rank up quick in Pokemon TCG Pocket. Let's get into it. So, starting things off, the first deck that we're going to be taking a look at today is the new Darkrai deck. This has been given a massive boost since the release of Shining Revelry, adding Giratina, Red, and Team Rocket to this deck. So, the deck list goes as follows. You're running 2 Darkrai EX, 2 Druddigon, and then 2 Giratina EX as well. And then in terms of supporter cards, you're running 2 Leaf, 2 Professor Research, 2 Red, 1 Cyrus, 1 Sabrina, 1 Team Rocket Grunt. You're running 2 Pokeballs, 2 Giant Capes, and then 1 Rocky Helmet. Of course, it is up to you whether you want to run 2 Rocky Helmets or 2 Giant Capes. That is completely your call. But the whole point of this deck is obviously to get Druddigon out, and then you can have Darkrai and Giratina on your bench. You can just keep adding Dark Energy to Darkrai every single turn, so you're doing 20 damage from that. And then with Giratina EX, you can use its ability to kind of create a Psychic Energy for Giratina. And then after quite a long time, you can obviously just bring in either Darkrai or Giratina, who are both going to be able to hit for quite a lot of damage, and then be able to just kind of finish off whatever is in front of you. Because, of course, Druddigon out there in front of you is going to be dealing 20 damage with the Rough Skin, potentially another 20 damage with the Rocky Helmet. So they're going to be taking a lot just from that regardless. The Leaf is in there just because both Darkrai, Druddigon, well, all Darkrai, Druddigon, and Giratina have a 2 retreat cost, so obviously Leaf is perfect for that. Professor Research and Pokeball just do what they've always done. Red is very useful just so you're dealing an extra 20 damage to EX cards, because most of the time you're going to be battling an EX card anyway. So you could go Giovanni if you wanted a little bit more security, because you obviously can do 10 damage to anything, but the extra 10 damage from Red is just more useful in my opinion. Cyrus is in there just because you're dealing a lot of damage to a lot of different Pokemon with this deck, so obviously you can just pick and choose what kind of comes back in. So you could run 2 Sabrina, 2 Cyrus is completely up to you, but I think just 1 Cyrus, 1 Sabrina is good enough. And then Team Rocket Grunt is in there as well, just simply because if they do have, I don't know, something setting up in front of you and you want to kind of get rid of those energies, then you can play this card. Again, it's all RNG at the end of the day, whether you hit a heads or a tails, but it's obviously very, very useful if you do kind of deplete their energy, whilst you are getting basically 2 energy every single turn onto your back row. And then, as I say, the Giant Cape and the Rocky Helmet's just there to give you either more health or more damage on the Druddigon. So this is a very, very good deck. It's seeing a lot of play right now. It's doing very well in tournaments. You're going to see this all the time in ranked. Again, the Darkrai Magnezone, Darkrai Weavile, still very, very good decks, but I think this is just a lot more consistent because you can just be setting up loads of different things on the bench every single turn. So it's very, very beneficial. I really like it, and that's the first deck that we're going to be going over today. The next deck that we're going to be taking a look at today is the Solo Articuno deck. Again, you can run Solo Articuno, Solo Palkia. I prefer the Articuno because I think it's just a little bit more consistent with the damage, especially with the added boost that we've had with like Red and Team Rocket. It just kind of makes this deck even better. So the main point of this deck, you've probably seen it quite a lot, is that you're just running 2 basic EX Pokemon, in this case Articuno, and then the rest of the deck you're just filling up with supporter cards, item cards, and tools. So we're running 2 Articuno EX, 2 Professor Research, 2 Misty, 2 Team Rocket Grunt, 2 Red, 2 Irida, 2 Cyrus, 1 Sabrina, 2 Pokeballs, 1 red card, and then 2 Giant Cape. So obviously the Research is in there just to draw more cards. People are probably wondering why you're running 2 Pokeballs, because obviously you're already going to start with 1 Articuno in your hand, but the Pokeball is just there for more consistency, because you're just more of a chance of drawing a Pokeball if there's 2 in your deck to find that other Articuno. Because it's always nice to have 2 Articuno, because obviously if something one-shots the Articuno in your active spot, you lose straight away. Misty's there obviously just because you get water energy for free. Team Rocket is in there because it does exactly what Misty does, just the opposite. You're removing energy from the opposing Pokemon. Red's there because it does extra damage, more damage than Giovanni, and again, you're usually going to be fighting an EX in front of you. The only times it's not going to be usable is obviously if you're fighting like a Druddigon or something like that, but there's not like a ton of non-EX cards in the current meta. I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head, and there's most of it is literally just EX cards, maybe Magnezone, but again, I think Red more or less is going to be much better than Giovanni in most circumstances. Irida's in there as well, just because it heals extra HP. You're probably wondering why you wouldn't play maybe a Nurse Joy in this deck instead. You're just getting more HP. There are a couple of poison decks kind of going around right now. but they're not seeing as much play because a lot of people are running Arceus, and of course Poison won't affect Arceus, so I just like the extra HP that you get from Irida. Of course, you don't need a Water Energy with Nurse Joy, but most of the time you're going to have a Water Energy on your Articuno anyway. 2 Cyrus in there just because obviously you're going to be dealing damage to the bench, so it's just very, very perfect for that, to bring in something and then one-shot it with a Blizzard. Sabrina's in there as well just for kind of taking that active Pokemon out, maybe if you've got like a Drudigon or something and it's really annoying. And then yeah, 2 Pokeballs, red card, and then 2 Giant Capes. Could run Rocky Helmet if you wanted to, but Giant Cape just gives you a little bit more HP, stops you from getting one shot by 150 kind of damaging moves and stuff like that, 140 damaging moves. And then yeah, the red card, again, just maybe to help you out. Red card is very hit and miss. It can either really help you out or it can't. It depends. You don't know what your opponent's got in their hands. So yeah, this deck is very, very quick. I'd probably say this is the quickest deck to rank up quickly, just simply because you get your basic Pokemon guaranteed every single time, and then hopefully you can find like Misties and stuff and set it up really quickly. So it's just a lot faster games than like using any other deck. But yeah, definitely recommend the solo Articuno deck. Coming up next, we still have the Dialga and Arceus deck. It's still one of the best decks in the game, but of course, with the addition of Shining Revelry, you're now adding red and 2 Team Rocket Grunts into this deck. So yeah, you're consisting of 2 Dialga EX, 2 Arceus EX, a Shaman, a Mew EX, 2 Professor Research, 2 Leaf, 2 Team Rocket Grunts, 1 Cyrus, 1 red, 2 Pokeballs, 2 Giant Capes, 2 Rocky Helmet. And again, the main purposes for this deck, you probably already know how to do it, but Dialga is there just to set up your Arceus, and then of course with your Arceus, with a full bench, you're going to be dealing a lot of damage. Shaman is there because it allows you to heal HP every single turn on your Pokemon. You could run the other Shaman as well, because obviously it stops like the retreat cost being so expensive, but Mew is in there just because it's another potential wall that you can bring in as well. So as well as that, genome hacking can be very, very useful because a lot of the Pokemon you could be going up against, like maybe a Charizard or something, you're going to be dealing like 200 damage or something, so it's very, very nice for that. But yeah, they're basically your Pokemon. Professor Research does what it does, Pokeball does what it does, Leaf is in there because of the 2 retreat cost on Dialga and Arceus. Team Rocket Grunt, again, you're going to see it in most decks because it can be very, very beneficial. Doesn't really help against the new Charizard because you're just getting that energy back straight away anyway. But if someone has been setting up a Pokemon for a while, you can easily just hopefully get rid of it. Depends again on coin flips, but it is very an RNG card at the end of the day. Cyrus is there just because it's very, very nice. Red there for extra damage, and then your Giant Capes and your Rocky Helmets just on your Arceus or your Dialga or your Mew, whatever. These are all tournament winning decks as well, by the way. I'm just saying I haven't made these. These are decks that have been very, very good in tournaments, which is obviously why they're probably the better decks to use in ranked right now. But again, this deck has been around for a while. It's not going anywhere. It's probably even going to happen even more now because of the potential poison decks kind of popping up with like Clodsire and Grafaiai. Arceus just absolutely destroys those decks because it can't be affected by the poison, which is obviously very, very useful, and that's where Clodsire gets all its damage from. So yeah, very, very big fan of this deck. Coming up next, a new deck that's kind of been breaking into the scene quite a bit because of all the kind of additional energy that are going on to cards and stuff is the Gallade EX deck. So you're running 2 Rolts, 2 Curlier, 2 Gallade EX, 2 Hitmonlee, and then 1 Marshadow. So Gallade obviously has a very, very useful attack where it does 70 anyway, and then depending on how much energy the opposing Pokemon has, it does an extra 20. So if you're going up against something like Charizard, then obviously you're going to be doing a lot more damage. But Giratinas, Arceuses, like a lot of these Pokemon, you're going to be doing even more damage to that. So it's very much a counter meta deck in just the fact that it does what it does really well against everything else that you're going to see in the meta right now. Isn't obviously useful against like Exeggutor and stuff like that, but even with Celebi, it's obviously going to be doing a lot of damage. Hitmonlee's in there just to obviously hit the bench and stuff, and the Marshallow's in there for the revenge kill. Running 2 Professor Research, 2 Cyrus, 1 Iono, 1 Red, 2 Pokeball, 2 Pokemon Communications, and 1 Rocky Helmet. I think Iono is kind of needed in every single 3-stage evolution deck now, because if your opening hand in this case was like Rolts, Marshadow, Red, Rocky Helmet, and Cyrus, you're not really going to get anything from that. well, let's say Iono instead of Rocky Helmet, should we say. But then obviously you can use Iono, get rid of your hand and your opponents as well, which could benefit you. Maybe they like open up with a really good starting hand, and then you Iono them out, and then they get a terrible hand and you get a really good hand. It's just really, really nice for that. And then the 2 Pokemon communications are in there as well, because if you are looking for something certain like Curl and you don't want to get rid of the rest of your hand, because maybe you have Gallade or something, then obviously it's very, very good for that. Cyrus obviously does what it does, especially with Hitmonlee attacking. Marshadow is obviously very, very good for revenge killing. Red, extra damage. Rocky Helmet on, again, Gallade if you wanted to, or Marshadow, whatever. Just a really, really solid deck. Again, it's the anti-meta deck right now, because there's so many Pokemon in the meta right now, like Arceus, Giratina, Charizard, that are just stocking up on energy. So Gallade does a very, very good job in stopping that. So definitely recommend this deck. Not as good as obviously the meta decks, because you're kind of hoping that you're going to go up against the meta deck, and if that doesn't happen, it's still a good deck, but it's obviously not as powerful as the other ones. But yeah, definitely really like this deck going into ranked. And then finishing things off, we have a new update to the Exeggutor deck, and that is with the addition of Meowscarada, Florigato, and Sprigatito from Shining Revelry. So in this deck, you're running 2 Sprigatito, 2 Florigato, 2 Meowscarada, 2 Exeggcute, and then 2 Exeggutor EX. You're running 2 Professor Research, 2 Erica, 1 Iono, 1 Leaf, 2 Pokeballs, 1 Giant Cape, and 1 Rocky Helmet. So the whole point of this is obviously to have Exeggutor in that active spot, dealing constant damage, 40, 80, depending on how lucky you are with coin flips, healing it with Erica, popping the Giant Cape on, or popping the Rocky Helmet, depending on whether you want more damage or HP, and then building Meowscarada up on the deck, on the bench, and then of course can come in with Meowscarada, who's going to be doing a lot of damage with its Fighting Claws move, because it's doing about what, 130 odd damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX, which in most cases is going to be. I quite like the addition of a red in this deck, because you're going to be doing even more with that. But at the same time, I think you kind of need all these other supporters. Like, you need the Professor's Research in there. You need the Erica in there for the HP. You need Iono in because you're running a 3-stage deck. You need Leaf in there just because it's very, very useful for retreating and stuff. A lot of the time, you could just let your Exeggutor go, and then obviously come in with Meowscarada and finish off everything else. But if you are wanting to get rid of Exeggutor and bring in Meowscarada, it's just obviously very useful that. You need the 2 Pokeballs, and then you kind of need the tools as well, the Giant Cape and the Rocky Helmet. So I don't know how you would fit Red into this deck, but it would just be nice doing an extra 20 damage with Meowscarada, because they're not going to be expecting it. You know, you could easily bring it in, retreat Exeggutor out, play Red, and then you're doing like, what, 150 odd damage to an EX Pokemon. So yeah, maybe it's not as good as Celebi, maybe it is. I quite like it. I think it does a really good job, because you're not relying on Celebi coin flips and stuff. Like 130 damage from Meowscarada with only 2 energy is obviously a lot better than hoping that you're hitting heads with every single coin flip. The only drawback is the fact that it is a 3-stage evolution line, but the fact you've got like Cry for Help with Sprigatito is obviously very, very useful. So I do really like this deck. But those are 5 of the best decks that you can be using right now in Pokemon TCG Pocket Ranked. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. Leave a comment. How are you getting on in Ranked right now? Subscribe if you're brand new. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, peace.